Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at John Grund's West. This was sent to me by our friend at Uncivilized, Tom Kaczynski. Thanks so much, Tom. He sent me a whole bunch of books, and I'm slowly getting through reviewing here. But this is another Uncivilized production, and as always with Uncivilized, you get really well-made books, really well-produced books with great cartooning, and then really thoughtful writing always. Tom, being such a thoughtful guy himself, obviously is looking for thoughtful philosophical works, and this is no exception. I'm going to be putting this review up right before West number 3 comes out. So I'm going to do a pretty deep, not 100% spoilery, but pretty spoilery review of the first 2 issues to really set the ground for what this is, because I think this is a series that will continue getting more and more and more interesting as the story unfolds. And from what I've read of these first 2 issues, it feels like this is something that's going to be pretty large. I don't think we're near the end of the story yet. So I think that this first couple of books is pretty much world building, getting to know the characters, setting the stakes, and that kind of thing. So I feel pretty comfortable doing a thorough review of it. And then hopefully you all can go. I'll put a link to the order of these as well as the 3rd issue, and you can hopefully get that on a pre-order so when it comes out you've got all 3. So this book is set in a, I don't want to say a future, but maybe an alternate future or something, where there's a corporation, Solomon Corp, which is a tech and communication company, but there's also magic in this world, and Solomon, who runs Solomon Corp, seems to be a dark magician who's also using his dark magic to become like the leader of industry within this world. So you have that background going on within the world itself, and then you have these main 2 characters here. You have Mo and Sal. This is Mo, this is Sal, and their friend Jinx, who used to be human, who's got turned into a cat after sleeping with a wizard, apparently is the story there, and has been put on a mission that they have to do something nice for humanity to become a human again. So those are like the 3, at least, I don't want to say main characters, but the kind of 3 protagonists that you get introduced to right out the gate. They live on a very small little plot of land, and they're doing this like tradcore return to nature thing that I've been seeing in so many books. Small communities, small self-sustaining communities, like checking out of society. And that's very obviously what they've done. They've checked out of the Sol Corp society, the Solomon Corp society, and they're trying to live this Earth magic-centric life rather than the technology-driven life. And but they still have to pay rent. They're trying to get out of the system, but they're still trapped within the system. And so they start planning basically in this opening sequence here. Sal is saying that I think, well, I will say they, because Sal is sexually ambiguous to me. Sal has proposed that they're going to go in and do a heist at one of the Solomon Corp's facilities, and they're going to steal some neural chips, and they're going to like Robin Hood that. But then they're also talking about selling it, so they're going to sell it cheap to get money to pay their rent. So not total Robin Hooding it. Anyway, so that's the kind of the plot for the first issue, is they're going to go break into the Solomon Corp building and try and steal these neural chips. There's some really, really visually compelling sequences in this as well, like here where you get Sal snaps this little magic trinket, and the magic trinket gives everyone in the, well, I guess it gives Sal and anyone Sal's touching the ability to phase shift through solid objects. So you get this really nice like reverse image here, the white on the black, but also like this nice ink spray tone texture that's used in there to get the gradients and stuff, which is really, really cool looking. There's a lot of cool like tone work throughout the book, but that's maybe the one thing that I would complain about in this book, is the tone work feels digital. It doesn't feel like it was done actually. Something about the way it prints looks like it was a pattern stamp or something in Photoshop, but it's a really, really minor little thing compared to all of the really fun visuals and beautiful work. Inside, they find these strange fields with all of these tubes going on, and you have these artificial suns growing the crops. I really like this image. I'm assuming John Grund got the inspiration from Olafur Eliasson's big sun installation that he did, where he put a mirror to make a fake sun in a building. But just that visual of these fake suns in there, I find that to be very powerful. So while they're in there, they find some kids. I won't go too much into that because I don't 100% understand it, and you should read it yourself. But there's some kids in there who are also like magic users, and they're doing something. The corporation's doing something evil to them, so it help the kids escape. I really like this series of panels here, where the characters are falling, and then here you have the bottom of the building, and then the bottom of the building again. But visually, you kind of want to follow it this way, but really you're supposed to read it this way. I just like that like false kind of directionality there, because it really gives the sense of falling like some extra vertical length, and I just think it looks really nice. I like that kind of trickery. So those kind of formal tricks all the way throughout the books are really interesting. So they make their escape. You get a nice little like ad in the book here where you're basically getting to know more about Solomon Industries, and they just seem to be like they made the internet in this world. As you know, it's like a combination of, it seems like a combination of Mark Zuckerberg, like Solomon Industries seems like the big three, you know, it's like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos all rolled into one basically, and make it into a dark magician that's taken over the world, and you've got Solomon Corp. So that's the first issue. Pretty interesting first issue. I think issue 2 really starts to flesh out this world, get a lot more formally interesting, and even more compelling story. Right out the gate, we get introduced to a character, Gigi. I'm kind of guessing maybe that Gigi is potentially Mo's sister, because at some point Mo talks to a sister on the phone. So I'm wondering if Gigi's Mo's sister, because we're introduced to Gigi and then don't see much else of her. But Gigi is obviously like a social influencer that, as far as I can tell, is working for Solomon Corp, because what she's doing is she's a magic user who's in the system, in the city, and she's doing these like video casts, live streams about her magic practice and like how to find peace using magic within the system. But within that is also like basically saying, well, you need this magic paper and this special pen, and so it's being used by Solomon Industries to sell stuff, and that plays out on these first couple pages. I think very clear, but in very clear, clever visuals where there's like pop-ups on the screen, add these magic pencils to your cart, you know, things like that. I also really liked this attention to detail that John Grund has, where if you're going in and reading on the side, you'll see right here that you get a hello from Garden City, and then a comment that says, this ain't even real magic. And this happens a couple times throughout, you know, where a comment's made. And then when you go to the next panel, you kind of pick up, you know, you'll see, oh, here's the solo goddess, here's the hello from Garden City, and then the last thing that we saw, this ain't even real magic's not there, and it says comments removed by moderator. And then you get back to other things like it says tap here for black magic, and then thank you, and then you go to here and you see that the tap here for black magic has been removed and just the thank yous there. So that kind of little attention to detail, that there's this corporate person there sitting there moderating every little comment that's coming in on this live feed, is interesting. Then you get a sequence where basically a superior in the system, whoever's hired Gigi, is coming in and saying, yeah, that was really good, you're doing good stuff. This Xanthem Tapioca character is piping in and saying, but you know, you went a little off script and you used some negative words, and it's just a really well done little kind of bit of the world there. This page, now we're taking the kids, they're running with these kids and they're stopping to get some food, and I just think again there's some visuals in here that show a lot of attention to detail. So first off, just all the drawing that's done here, it's kind of easy to overlook, but there's a ton of details in there, because the pages, even though there's a lot of detail in them, they feel really airy and breezy, so it's easy to kind of skip over how much detail there actually is. But then also that these treats that they're buying have been pulled out over top here. I really like that, this little bit, and I think again there's a lot of subtle things that if you're reading too fast could be easy to overlook, but really flesh the book out. Another one that I really like is here. There's this robot that has like a credit card, kind of like a credit card. Basically, you put in your chip and pay for your stuff. On its chest, it's been spray painted, And so just these visuals of like the transaction happening, but you kind of can't see what's going on because it's been spray painted over. I just think it's those attention to details. Like here, it's got bot written on it, and you don't even see it until it takes its shirt down to take the payment. That's a lot built into one page. There's a lot of between the lines world building there that I think is really well done. A lot of times when people world build, they're too explicit about it. Or they're too vague about it. You know, I feel like too dumped into somewhere I don't know, or too overwhelmed right out the gate. I think John Grund hits this perfect mix of like, you're dumped in, but you get exactly what you need when you need it, and there's more defined, but you don't need it, and it really unfolds in a nice way. Another really, really just compelling sequence from the standpoint of comics formalisms, but also this rich world building, is here Mo is meeting this character who's a Yigmini, which seems to be a species or a race or something, a technologically enhanced people, I'm not sure, but someone else in this world. And they don't speak the same language, so there's this 2-page sequence here where they're communicating through drawing. And that's someone in comics making a case. John Grund is making a case for the universality of cartooning and comics, and I think that's really, really cool. And then to couch that within a comic really makes, in this scene where characters are trying to communicate, really makes the case for comics and kind of the magical power of visual communication, because this book is a lot about magic. Here's another thing that I just find really, really compelling. Again, world building that has no explanation yet, but it sets a mystery I'm really curious about, is that Yigmini gives Mo this folded up piece of paper. And really, I also like this, like right here, this is their symbol for saying safe journey. And Mo knows that and says it back, but really beautifully designed little symbols. It's just, there's so much richness in just these two issues. But then, yeah, this Yigmini gave Mo this piece here with these diagrams. It's all folded up, and you have these 2 circles for the most part with these dots moving around them. So there's some kind of logic in this, whether it be a language or some kind of mathematical system or something. I just really, the systematic nature of what I'm looking at here, that you could take, you know, here's circles, and you can put dots, you know, at east, north, south, west, or in the middle. And what are the variations on that? And then you could have, you know, here you have circles within circles, which to me that overcomplicates it a little bit. Also seems, I don't know if it's just the different sizes or just because it's like a handwritten thing or not. But I like that you could take one circle away. The circles and circles seems to add too many variations, but I really just like this basic, you know, you've only got a couple elements, and then there's the variations, and you show how very simple rules lead to very complex results, which is something that I think is important for some other things later in the book. And I think a good solid understanding of how the world works is all represented in that, and I want to see what that is. I really want to know what that is and where it's going. So they get these kids back to their camp, and the kids are magic users, and they're teaching them how to use magic. And they're basically explaining here, Sal is explaining that magic isn't just for the strong, it's in all things for all living beings. And it's talking about being connected to the energy in the earth. But I think, you know, more than that, it's just being connected to existence as a whole, like understanding that we're operating in, my take on it is that we're operating in a world that at base is data, and we're just data too. And so you can be more or less connected to that data substrate of the world. And that there's a potential in that. And I think John Grund is acknowledging it as well by having Solomon be the tech guy, but also be a black magician. I think maybe John Grund is suggesting that if you analyze it and technologize it rather than keep it practical, like feeling mythology, like understanding it from an emotional standpoint rather than a chopping it up analytic standpoint, that it's preserves its power. I think that's kind of the argument that's being made in the first 2 issues. I don't know, I'll have to see where the story goes, but that seems to be what's going on here. Is these people aren't technologists, they just are capable of using the magic. They're capable of being in touch with the infosphere or the Ruliad or whatever you want to call it. And so they're able to use their will, and symbol shaping is what they do. Find the symbols in your mind, focus them, draw the energy around the shape. So I wonder if this little diagram that they got from the Mini is some of those magical symbols, that there's a lesson to be learned there. But I think connecting those things is really important. Connecting basically logic functions or something, some very simple rule that can play out complexity, ties to this idea of the reality being informational. And if you can tap into the informational aspects of things, that's basically magic. I think currently our society isn't like this society. We haven't had someone who has systematized that yet, and so that still remains magic to us. But I think there is a potential that someone could be like Solomon, and they could technologize that understanding of the world and have a new type of engineering that would accomplish what we used to think was magic, we would now say is science. And that's always been the thing, right? Is like it's magic until you understand it and can make it happen from like, within that worldview, then it becomes science. But until that, it's magic. That doesn't mean we can't make things happen. Obviously, humans are way better engineers than scientists. We figure out how to use things before we figure out why they work. And I think that's, in this case, these people still remember, how to interact with the informational substrate of existence. But they don't necessarily have the science to explain it. And I think they're also making the point that they don't want the science to explain it. They know how to do it, and it would lose its magic if it became science. So they're out of the system, and they want to be out of the system. And then there's just this absolutely horrifying sequence here where they've been tracked down by Solomon Corp, and he sends like a robot or a holographic projection or something of Silly Sam. And Silly Sam is like their corporate. Well, it's basically like when Solomon Corp first became a thing, Silly Sam was like the little paperclip icon that would pop up and help you use stuff. And then it became kind of like the mascot for the company. So this would be like you've stolen something from Disney and you run away, and then Mickey Mouse shows up on your doorstep. Or you stole something from Bill Gates and that little Microsoft paperclip shows up on your doorstep. And it's kind of cute and funny and a strange idea, but this is actually the most horrific sequence to me of this corporate mascot creeping out of the bushes and being like, hi. Like, if Mickey Mouse walked up to my door after I'd stole something from Disney, I'd be absolutely terrified. So there's that. I think that's really well written and well visualized. And then this little sequence here of the hologram, it looks like it is a holographic projection rather than a robot disappearing. The kind of glitch aspect of this and how the text glitches is really well done. And so from that, it's like now the characters realize they have to go on the run. And that's the first two issues. Is we've set up this whole world. We've got these characters that are now going on the run from Solomon Corp. I think, like I said, there's a lot of stuff like this that suggests to me that this is quite a long project that John Grund will be working on, that hopefully this will expand over many, many years and many, many issues as this world unravels itself and the logic behind it unravels itself, and as John Grund lands whatever point he's trying to make about the intersection between society versus the individual, the collective versus the individual, the corporation versus the individual, science versus magic, all of these things that are in there. Knowing it's from Uncivilized, I'm sure that there's probably going to be some kind of like slightly anarchistic, like, tradcore, like step outside of the boundaries of the system and do your own thing message to it, because Tom has that kind of renegade aspect to what he does as well. And I think that's why me and Sean and Tom all get along so well, is we all kind of, I think, have this renegade spirit where we are operating within the system, but only as minimally as we need to, to survive. So there's like minds here as well. I think we all have our own little peculiar, like, one person's on more over here and one person's more over here, but I think there is a real, like, between John Grund and a lot of the other people at Uncivilized, and then a lot of people who are doing work with Sean at Living the Line, I think there's a real simpatico between what we're thinking about. So this is a really cool book. It's a really, really cool project. Obviously, you can tell I'm pretty hype about it. Really looking forward to issue number 3. Really looking forward to, hopefully, many, many issues to come. So like I said, I'll put a link in here that will lead you to where you can pre-order issue number 3. Definitely get yourself copies of issue 1 and 2 while you're at it, and support a great indie publisher, support a great book by a great artist who's really formulating something unique within comics. If you enjoy what we're doing on the channel here and want to support us, there's 2 ways to do that. The first is through our Patreon. We have 2 different tiers of engagement there. The first tier will just get you early access to the videos. The second tier gets you exclusive access to the graphic novel projects that Sean and I are working on. Our personal projects will post updates. You also get the ability to participate in our ongoing webcomic experiment, Prane Day, where you'll be able to vote and help control some of the story of what happens to Prane as his Groundhog Day cycle repeats. So we really appreciate that. Any of the monies that we get from Patreon just go back to buying the books that we review. Luckily, sometimes we get books for free too, so thanks again, Tom. But we do use that money to buy the books that we review, and so we just try and turn that back into other creators and other publishers' pockets, put it back into the community. If you want to support Living the Light itself, money that will keep help pay Sean's bills and things like that, then the best thing to do is to buy the books that Sean has coming out from Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of those projects now. Centralia is an awesome, gorgeous comic by rising Dutch star Miel van de Peet. This is his first work. It's a really great sci-fi story. There's a world in the future where the sun has gotten so hot that people can't be on the ground. So they have to run around. There's a lot of conceits that go with that. You know, what is the world that looks like? And I think you can see by the art that Sean's description of this book as like a Moebius for young adults, a YA Moebius, is a really great description of this really gorgeous and like wild, wacky, fun book. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
Lucy